Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I am Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop!
Whoop, whoop.
You heard it, folks. I have Vance Josie with me again. Woohoo! All right. So today's episode, we like to present past projects, whether it's our past projects, whether we bring people in that we interview with past projects, and we like to show the good, the bad, and the just plain ugly. So the one we're going to discuss today is not as pretty as the one we did in the previous episode. So this one was on Oak Park Road, and it was a doozy. So we are going to go over everything, how we found it, the estimated repairs, how we financed it, how long it stayed on the market, which is way too long. And we're going to share all the final numbers with you and who actually won in the end. So before we begin, I like to start every episode with a badassery bestowment from yours truly. And so today, my little badass gift to you is when you are setting appointments with prospective sellers, don't ask when is a good time for us to come by. Instead, say, we have availability this afternoon. Which would work best for you, 1 p.m. or 3 p.m.? So you give them two choices. It keeps it simple, is less thinking on their behalf, and they just pick one or the other. And then you always end with, I look forward to working with you. So I'm using this one today because we literally just had an appointment today with a prospective seller, and he's a former sales guy. He actually gave me his book. He wrote a book on sales techniques. So he said, he pointed out those two things when I gave him the two choices. We actually went at 3 o'clock today to say, I look forward to working with you. So that is my badass gift to you. So on to today's episode. Like I said, we are lucky to have Vance Josie in here with us. Woohoo! Vance Josie! We are going to talk about one of our past projects that was towards the ugly side. And by ugly, we mean numbers. The house turned out great. The people who bought it got a great property. The people who we bought it from were fantastic. So we're going to go through everything with you. The only thing that isn't fantastic is the numbers that we ended up with. So here we go. And Vance Josie, property description. So tell us about the property.
So the property is a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home, 2,700 square feet, built in 1968.
Okay. And anything particular about this property?
It has a really steep driveway. The house sits kind of below street level, so it was kind of...
It was definitely below street level.
So a very steep driveway. The entire house, the entire property was overgrown. It hadn't really been cut in 10 years. So there was just a lot of growth in the backyard. There was a lot of kudzu growing up the trees. There was actually a half-moon gravel driveway at the top of the property, and it was so thick we couldn't even see the railing and stairs that led to the front of the house.
Yeah. I can remember when we cleared out part of the front area. I actually got bit by something, and remember that on my ankle?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. And I ended up with a staph infection from this house. So that was just one more gift that we got from this property. So let's talk about that backyard for a second, because I remember standing there and looking, and I literally thought the backyard was straight across. It was flat. But when we finally cleared it out, it actually sloped even further down, and it turned out being pretty great because there was a creek back there and you could hear the water, which is actually quite lovely. So what else about the house? What was near the house?
So the swim club for the neighborhood was right next door.
Okay.
which depending on the potential buyers, it could be a good thing because there's a pool next door, or it could be a bad thing if it was really loud.
Nobody wants screaming kids.
Nobody wants screaming kids.
No. All right, so how do we find this property? Was this through marketing? Was it a wholesaler?
This was actually someone we know. It's a good friend of ours, BJ, who you used to teach with.
Yes.
And it's the home that her stepfather lived in, and that he had with her mother while she was still living, and he owned the house for 40 years.
Wow. So why did it get so bad in the last 10 years?
So when BJ's mother passed away 10 years earlier, that's kind of when he just stopped taking care of things on the exterior.
Gotcha. There were some really lovely azaleas from what I remember, and I think those were BJ's mom that had planted all those. So how did BJ even know that we were, in this business?
Well, she's followed some of the work that we've done.
So BJ, she knew we were in this business because I am constantly promoting everything on Facebook. I do all of our before and after photos. People know what we do. It's kind of obnoxious, but I'll tell you what, people love those before and after photos. So anytime we buy a property, I'm posting it on Facebook. Anytime we sell a property, I'm posting on Facebook. So all of my friends on social media know exactly what we do. It was just obvious when her stepfather, it was time for him to move, and we were the first people that she called. So that's why it's so important to make sure everyone around you knows exactly what you're doing. All right. So what did we get this property for?
So we paid $235,000 for this property.
Okay. And do you remember the first time we walked into this property? What it looked like inside?
It was dated.
Not dated. It was packed. There was a basement, like a walkout basement, that was museum level historical collections. An Elvis collection. There was baseball, tons of war memorabilia. It was actually amazing to walk through. And both my parents were newspaper folks, and he had all of these original newspapers that were, really cool to look through. Kennedy was elected. It was just very historic, but packed. When they were getting ready to, move all of his stuff, they ended up paying a company to come out, and they took all of the contents of the property and paid $5,000 for it, which is a steal. There was a 4-post bed that was gorgeous in one of the upstairs bedrooms. That alone was worth probably $5,000. It was definitely an antique, and it just got to a point where, they had to just cut them off from collecting things, and that was it. So that was the interior. When we actually gained access to the property, when we closed on it, it was empty, which was very nice. And as Vance was saying, it was definitely dated. What did we estimate to repair?
So going into it, we expected to have repairs of about $102,000.
Okay, and what was that? So that was roof, flooring, what else?
Roof, flooring. We were going to have to replace the bathrooms. We completely redid those. Replaced the kitchen cabinets and countertops and appliances. But we lucked out because
Painting.
And painting, the interior and the exterior, and really a big chunk of money for landscaping. We actually underestimated the amount of landscaping work we needed to get done.
And plus our landscapers, notorious for saying, hey, Jen, I think we need to do this. I think we need to do that. All right, so we estimated, you said about $103,000, and is there any type of padding in that?
That included a 10% contingency.
Only a 10% contingency. Why only 10%?
Well, we got it inspected up front, so we knew what items we needed to address.
Oh, also windows. We had to replace the windows.
And we had to replace the windows. Yes, that was a lot. But by having the inspection, we knew the things that we knew that had to get done, in addition to the things that we wanted to get done.
How did we finance this deal?
So we use a private money lender. Actually, it's friends of ours, people we've used for funding of other projects. So someone that we knew. And they funded 100% of the purchase and 100% of the repairs.
Which is awesome.
So we paid 11%. No points on this one.
No point. And explain for our listeners, what are points again?
Points. A point is typically just technically 1% of the amount borrowed.
Okay, because a lot of times there will be hard money lenders, and they will ask for points up front. There will be some private money lenders that want a point or two, and you typically pay that upfront to borrow their money.
Right, and it's just like a loan origination fee, so it's just an additional fee on top of the interest, just to cover other costs.
Very good. So what was our projected timeline? It's hard for me to say this without laughing. What was our projected timeline?
Well, for some reason, we thought we were going to be done in 3 months.
Hold on, I have to know how. I'm going to have to take a sip of my drink. Oh, yeah, 3 months. Were there any surprises during this? Let's just talk about the rehab alone. Were there any surprises in the rehab?
And the rehab itself, not really. We ended up coming in about $3,000 under budget. We were just under $100,000 on the rehab.
How long was the rehab?
So the rehab, it was less than 2 months.
I want to say it was like 5 or 6 weeks.
5 or 6 weeks. And then by the time we listed it, it was about 2 months after we bought it. I mean, the only surprises...
I know a big surprise that happened. So our flooring people, there was a really outdated linoleum that looked like brick in the kitchen. And it was a super hot item back in the day, but now it just outdated, really outdated everything. So we wanted to update the flooring in the kitchen to match the gorgeous hardwood floors throughout the house. So that was one thing about this house was even there was dark green shag carpet in the bedrooms. Underneath it was gorgeous hardwood floors. So we knew they were in great shape. We wanted to expose the hardwood floors, but we had to add hardwood floors into the kitchen and in this half bath. So when you are flipping properties, by law, you have to have a toilet on the property. And you can get one of those little porta potties and put them in the front yard or whatever. In this situation, I told our flooring guys, I'm like, listen, I need you to do the half bath first because I knew the other toilets were already being pulled out. I need you to do the half bath first so that within a couple hours, I can put a commode right back in. So we don't have to spend the money to have people come out and deliver a porta-john. So I told them, I'm like, you have got to do this first. I kid you not. They started on the opposite side of the house. The toilet was pulled out. No one could pee or other things in this house for 5 days. So, Vance, do you remember the phone call I got?
I remember the phone call you got.
So, our landscaper, so remember he's in the backyard and it slopes down. It was this crazy overgrown backyard. And he calls up and he's like, Jennifer! You need to tell your flooring people to come out here and pick up the shit. So I can't do a Hispanic accent very good, but he was upset. He took a picture of it, put it on my phone and was like, these flooring guys came out here and shit in the backyard. I will not pick this up. So that was an uncomfortable phone call I had to have with the flooring people and say, your people shit in my backyard and it's your fault because you didn't put the toilet back in when I told you to put it back in. So that was a surprise. I remember the screens. What happened with the screens? Tell us about that.
Once we got the windows replaced and came with brand new screens, apparently the rodents had a heyday on many of the screens.
It's not like 2. They were just scratched to pieces. And I remember looking out the half bath window and thinking like, what rodent is even up here doing this? But it was just, so a little tidbit, a little nugget for you is if you have screens and they look horrible, just take them out. Because that's one more thing for the buyer to say, oh, but I need you to replace those 2 screens when you see that there's screens everywhere else. If you just remove it, they don't think to ask you for it. So we ended up having to do that. I hated that we had to throw away like 19 really good screens, but that's what happens in that type of situation. And we did report it to the window company and they're like, yeah, I don't know why that's, but it's not covered. So we just got rid of them. Any other surprises? I can't think of anything. Our roof company was great. I think it ended up looking fantastic. Oh, I remember. This is the property we had to buy a trail cam on. So when we cleared out the backyard, and I told you about landscaper, and he is notorious for saying, "Oh, we should add this. We should add this." How much did we budget for for landscaping.
$10,000.
We budgeted $10,000, which is high, by the way. How much? How much did we end up spending on landscaping?
$20,000.
$20,000. But I will say it's probably what sold the property. So, one of the things that he did was he added stairs to the backyard, and there was a flattened area at the bottom, and he put this fire pit, decked it out. We put some, the plastic Adirondack chairs out there, and the neighbors, because remember, we got the pool right next door, the neighbors saw this going on. For some reason, every damn night, they were going over there, drinking beer. It was a enclosed backyard. It was fenced in. They were going inside the fence, bringing their dogs, like it was a damn dog park. There was dog shit everywhere, beer cans. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had, reached out to a couple different Facebook groups and said, what do y'all use for surveillance? And someone gave me the idea of a trail cam. So I put up the trail cam. I was just like ready, and it's supposed to let your phone vibrates when there's movement, and it will snap pictures. So I get a picture that shows up 40 minutes after I put up the trail cam. There is this blonde chick walking with her cocktail, like marching her little ass into our backyard, going through the fence, and it snapped a picture. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we called 911. The police went over. They were already gone by then. And it was the police officer who gave us the idea. He said, I'm not one for promoting this, but it is certainly okay if you need to shame your neighbor. So I printed the picture and I wrote "smile for the camera" and I posted it. And actually the police officer said, do not put it on the mailbox because that could be a federal offense because of the, the whole United States Postal Service. But there was a fence at the top. I posted like 3 or 4 on the fence. I posted them down the driveway, and then I was smart and I posted them inside the house, inside the windows so that they couldn't get to them. And when I put them up, we went back about hour later, they're already down. Someone saw them, was mortified, but they couldn't get the ones that were inside the window. So that was a surprise, and we still use that trail cam to this day. It's actually been quite helpful in seeing when people are walking on our properties. So that was a great nugget. You don't need Wi-Fi. You just have to have it connected to your wireless service company. And I think we pay like $5 a month to have unlimited pictures sent to our phone. So that ended up being a great thing that we learned from this project. All right, so those are the surprises. What was the listing price once we completed it?
So we actually listed it for $445,000.
And we estimated that was going to be what?
$425,000.
So why such a jump in price?
Well, the realtor that we used suggested it. We had an appraisal done. Based on the information we had, we felt that we could get $445,000 for it.
Well, what did the appraisal come back at?
At $450,000.
Yeah, $450,000. I mean, that's huge. That's a big difference.
But we knew the steep driveway was going to go against us, so we kind of took a little bit off just to try to get ahead of it.
And then why do we use a realtor? I mean, you have your real estate license, so...
I mean, we used a realtor just thinking that she would have better marketing accessibility that I might not have access to.
What else do we like about her?
She's awesome. She's feisty.
Okay, what he's neglecting to say is that she will stage the property for free. That's part of her fee, is she'll go in and put furniture throughout the house. Because a lot of times in these higher price points, they sit a little longer because people look at them and they can't figure out where to put their damn sofa. Where would the TV go? So she went in and she stages our properties. Anything that she lists for us, say above the $500 or around the $500,000 or up price point, she'll stage it. So that's included, which is great. All right, so we listed it. Do you remember what day we listed it?
We listed it on September 18th
of
2019.
September 18th of 2019. All right. How many days did it stay on market?
The total days on market was only 82 days.
Okay. You say only, like that's
only.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Well, we did have it under contract. For less than asking price, but
like how soon? Probably like 2 months.
About a month or two.
I remember we dropped it at some point, but go ahead.
Well, it was right before Thanksgiving, so yeah, it was about 2 months. that we got it under contract. The wife wanted to be in one area of town, and the husband really liked this area of town. It was in the school district that they wanted, and they just kind of went back and forth. And once they got the inspection and saw a couple things, they just decided to walk.
Okay, so what came up in the inspection report?
The screen porch is on the main floor, but it's actually above the basement, so it's actually on stilts. And there was some structural items that were brought up in the inspection that we thought we had addressed.
So, okay, I gotta stop you here for a second, because when we had it inspected, there was a concern about it, and so we corrected it per our inspector, and we added the correct support beams. We added extra fasteners to the actual property. He said, by code, you have to have certain fasteners to the house, within these, certain inches or whatever. So to a T, we followed everything. It was a 4x4. There's 3 of them that were holding it up. And so it just looked scary, but it was totally legit. But these people were saying that was a big issue. But there's a major issue that was brought up. So what was that?
The septic.
The septic. So what did we learn about the septic in this situation?
So in this situation, we learned a couple things. One, we learned that this was one of only a couple houses in the entire neighborhood that was still on septic. Everything else had been switched over to city sewer. So we were on city water, but not on city sewer. And the size of the tank actually determined that it was only big enough for a 3-bedroom house. So while there were 4 bedrooms, we could only market it for 3.
Okay. And we had it cleaned out and checked and everything, correct?
We did.
So what was the problem?
So once they had it inspected, there was determined to be a leak inside the septic system.
And a leak can happen is if the house is vacant for several months at a time. And so BJ's stepdad had already moved out several months before. So when we had it inspected, everything was fine, but this leak appeared by the time it went under contract. So then we had an issue. When we first started all this, there's nothing wrong with the septic, and we were just gonna suck it up by listing it for as a 3-bedroom, not a 4-bedroom. The septic was gonna be as is, and we were just gonna go with it. Okay, so they said what about the septic?
I think they wanted to have the whole thing replaced.
That's right. So we looked to getting it replaced. And the issue was, remember, it's that steep driveway. You couldn't get equipment down there to do it. This was a concrete septic tank. And even to replace it, just pulling it up was going to be very costly. The maneuvering it around the area, we had just laid new concrete pad back there for the walkout basement area, and that was going to have to come up. I mean, it was a huge issue. So we, at that point, decided we were going to try to connect it to city water or city sewer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how much was that going to cost?
$12,000.
$12,000, which, when we look back on it now, we should have done it then and been done with it. We decided to hold off, kept trying to get better prices. There's an issue with pumping water to the street, all that, all these different things. And so when you have a property under contract and it falls out of contract, you have to then disclose anything that came up on the report. So, on the inspection report. So this held us up from relisting it. It was off market for, 2-3 months?
Yeah.
While we were researching the best way to save money to get this taken care of. And then the Rona hits. Our realtor said it would probably be best to go ahead and just list it now. We'll deal with it, we'll disclose it, and then we'll deal with it on the back end, I guess. So that's what we did. We ended up listing it. We ended up getting it under contract. They did their inspection, and then they just asked for a credit for it. So we wanted to get rid of it at this point. We had had it for how many months at this point?
At that point, we had it
7.5 months. 7.5 months, and we just decided we'll give a credit and let's get rid of it. So we ended up selling it for
So we got an offer of $415,000.
Okay, and
we offered gave them a $17,000 credit, which took care of connecting to city sewer, and it also addressed the issues that came up with the screen porch,
which I still think was done correctly. But let's go over the final numbers. So what was the estimated repairs again?
So our estimated repairs was $102,000.
Okay, what were our actual repairs?
Our actual repairs were just under $100,000.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Again, we overestimated in painting, I think, and a little bit in the roof we got a better deal on, but we ended up paying twice as much for the landscaping, which in that situation with that steep driveway, it's something that we had to do just to give a bit of a wow factor. I think that's pretty good to stick to what our actual repairs were.
And looking back, if we'd had thought about connecting to city sewer sooner, maybe we wouldn't have spent $20,000 in landscaping. We would have found somewhere else to save.
Yep.
To make it.
Good point.
Yeah.
So what was the interest we ended up paying to our dear friends who are our private money lenders? They funded 100% of the repair costs and the purchase price. Yeah, so what did they end up making?
They made $29,000.
$29,000. So if you have not yet thought about becoming a private money lender, if you have any type of money laying around, it is a great way to grow your money. Your money is backed by a physical property. Your name is on the deed. Your name is on the insurance. It's a great way to invest your money, especially since the stock market is so volatile right now. All right, so what were the holding costs that we paid?
So our holding costs were $2,350.
Okay, not too bad. What were the commissions we paid?
Yeah, the commission was $25,000.
Ouch! So that was a tough one. What were the closing costs?
So the closing costs were about just under $5,000.
Okay, that's not too bad. So we said the sales price was $415, but we had to give a huge credit. So this is why this one is on the ugly side. What was our total profit for 9.5 months? What was our total profit?
Now this one we expected to make closer to $50,000, but our actual profit was $2,427.
$2,400 and what?
$27.
Ugh, so that is tough, y'all. But we learned some great things. So what were our major takeaways?
The biggest takeaway is looking at the septic and comparing it to other houses in the neighborhood. This is actually inside city limits, so we should have probably done a little bit of more due diligence up front. But just if there's only a couple houses in the neighborhood that are still on septic and you're one of them, go ahead and budget to get it converted over.
Because a couple things, yes, it costs what, $15,000, $12,000.
$12,000.
It was $12,000 to do this, but if we could have originally listed this as a 4-bedroom instead of having to stick to the 3-bedroom because it was only coded for septic for a 3-bedroom, then we probably could have sold it a lot quicker and not had to pay out so much in interest. Will we be doing any future projects any differently after completing this one?
Most definitely.
And it's going to be checking out that septic. This was a friend of ours, so we were really trying to help them out. We were going against that steep driveway. You can't change a steep driveway, so you have to really budget for a lower after repair value because of that steep driveway. All right, so thank you, Vance, for sharing that. And I like to end all of our interviews with, I'm going to ask you, what was a defining badass moment that shaped your life?
Once we made the decision to get some formal education in real estate investing and we joined Fortune Builders, just learning that we didn't have to have a lot of money of our own to be able to do these projects, that there's the ability to use other people's money to be able to do these projects was awesome. But then having local friends, private money lenders who are willing to fund 100% of everything, that's even better.
Yeah. So for you, that badass moment was realizing I don't have to use my own money to flip houses. So I think that's awesome. That's a great way to end this episode. That's all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there, everybody, and share your badassery and make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.